The space station hung silent against the blackness. Outside the viewing window, Jupiter's storm clouds swirled in endless patterns of orange and cream. Lieutenant Commander Ethan Miller stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the gas giant with calm eyes. "Sir, you need to see this," said Officer Abby Nelson, her voice breaking the silence. Her face was pale as she held out a data tablet. Ethan took the tablet without rushing. The message displayed was simple but chilling. Unknown vessels had entered the solar system. Not one ship, not a small group, but hundreds. They had appeared suddenly beyond Neptune's orbit, moving in perfect formation. "Has Earth Command responded?" he asked. "Yes, sir. All military bases are on high alert. The President will address the world in 1 hour." Ethan nodded and handed back the tablet. "Thank you, Abby." "Aren't you worried, sir?" she asked, searching his face for signs of concern. Ethan smiled slightly. "Let's wait and see what they want." They didn't wait long. 6 hours later, every screen on Earth and across human colonies lit up with the same message. The beings called themselves the Veldari. Their language was strange, but their translation was perfect. Too perfect, Ethan thought. "People of Earth," the message began. The speaker remained hidden, their voice deep and mechanical. "Your expansion into space has drawn our attention. Your species has been assessed and found lacking. Your technology is primitive. Your governments are divided. You are not worthy of the resources you claim." In the main control room of the outpost, 20 crew members watched in stunned silence. Some grabbed hands. Others stepped back, as if the screen itself might attack them. "We give you 30 Earth days to surrender all colonies and space assets. After this period, resistance will result in your extinction. This is not a negotiation." The message ended with a demonstration. A small, uninhabited moon of Saturn exploded into dust. The Veldari ships had fired no visible weapon. The moon simply came apart as if its atoms had forgotten how to hold together. Alarms blared across the station. Communications officers scrambled to connect with Earth Command. The captain shouted orders, trying to maintain order as panic spread. Through it all, Ethan watched calmly. Miller, the station commander, Greg Winters, grabbed his shoulder. "Why are you just standing there? We need all hands coordinating with defense." "With all due respect, sir, I've requested transfer to Jupiter Station 6. It's already approved." Ethan handed over his tablet showing the orders. The commander's face reddened. "Are you crazy? We're facing alien invasion, and you're requesting transfer to a weather monitoring station." "I believe I can be of most use there, sir." "This is desertion, Miller. This is." "Check with Admiral Martinez, sir. My transfer has strategic approval." Later that day, as Ethan packed his few belongings, his friend Jack Porter confronted him in the corridor. "You're really leaving?" "Now." Jack's voice echoed off the metal walls. "Everyone says you've lost it, Ethan. Running to the furthest station when we need every strategic mind we have." Ethan closed his bag calmly. "What would you say if I told you I've been preparing for this day for 3 years?" Jack stared at him. "What are you talking about?" "The Veldari think they've surprised us." "They haven't surprised me." "You knew they were coming." "How?" Ethan checked his watch. "My shuttle leaves in 20 minutes. I need to go." "Ethan, if you know something." "Trust me, Jack. When they make their final threat, when they demand our answer, I won't respond. And that's when they'll understand they've already lost." As Ethan walked away, Jack called after him. "You can't fight them alone." Ethan looked back one last time. "I'm not alone. And I'm not fighting. That's what they don't understand about humans. Sometimes the best fight is the one you win before it begins." The shuttle to Jupiter Station 6 left on schedule. As Earth prepared for what might be its final days, Lieutenant Commander Ethan Miller sat quietly watching the stars, a small device held carefully in his hand, waiting for the perfect moment to end a war before it began. 3 years earlier, a small research station orbited quietly around Europa. Inside, Ethan Miller studied a screen filled with strange patterns. He had been assigned to this post after noticing something no one else had: unusual signal disruptions coming from deep space. "Found anything new?" asked Olivia Wright as she entered the room. She carried 2 cups of coffee and handed one to Ethan. "Yes. The pattern repeats every 42 hours. Too regular to be natural." Ethan pointed to a series of peaks on his screen. "Something out there is watching us." Olivia sipped her coffee. "Have you told Command?" "I sent a basic report. Told them it's likely just stellar interference." "But you don't believe that," she said, not asking a question. Ethan smiled. "I need more time before they send a team of experts to take over. I need people I trust." Later that week, a tall man with tired eyes arrived at the station. His name was Peter Gallagher, the best xenolinguist in the service. "This better be worth interrupting my vacation, Miller," Peter said, dropping his bag on the floor of the lab. Ethan pulled up the signal patterns. "I think it's a language, or at least a code." Peter studied the screen, his annoyance fading. "How long have you been sitting on this?" 3 months. I needed to be sure before bringing anyone else in." "And Command? They know." "They know I'm researching signal anomalies. That's all they need to know right now." Peter's eyes widened. "That's against protocol. If I'm wrong, I'll face the consequences. But if I'm right, we need time to understand what we're dealing with before everyone panics." The next 6 months passed in intense work. Olivia built special equipment to better capture the signals. Peter worked day and night on translation algorithms. A 4th team member joined them, Ryan Chen, a military strategist with a background in game theory. One night, as the station lights dimmed to simulate evening, the team gathered around a table covered in data reports. "They're planning something," Ryan said, pointing to signal patterns that showed increasing frequency. "These aren't just communications. They're coordinating." "We've translated about 12% of their language," Peter added. "Enough to know they're called the Veldari, and they're very interested in our resource usage." Ethan nodded. "And their technology?" Olivia pulled up a new screen. "Their communications use quantum entanglement, instantaneous across any distance. But there's something strange. They all connect to central nodes, like a hive mind with control centers." "A weakness," Ethan said quietly. "Possibly," she agreed. "Their system is advanced but rigid. If we could disrupt those nodes—" "We need to report this," Peter insisted. "Earth needs to prepare." Ethan looked at each of them. "If we report everything now, what happens?" "Earth panics. We build weapons. We show our hand. But what if instead we use this time to infiltrate their systems? Find a way to shut them down if they ever attack." Ryan understood first. "You want to create a backdoor into their communications." "That's insane," Peter said. "And illegal. We're talking about a potential first contact scenario." "We're talking about survival," Ethan replied. "Their signals show they've destroyed other civilizations. They study, they evaluate, then they take what they want." The room fell silent as they considered the choice before them. "I won't order any of you to help," Ethan said finally. "If you want out, I understand." Olivia stood up first. "I'm in, but we'll need more time. Years maybe. And access to their systems somehow," Ryan added. Peter sighed. "This could end our careers, or save our species." After a moment, he nodded. "I'm in too." Ethan smiled. "Then let's get to work. If they're playing chess, let's make sure we've set up the board long before they arrive." Outside the window, Europa's ice reflected the distant sun, hiding the dark waters beneath. Like the quiet team, working in secret, preparing for a war that hadn't yet begun. 22 days remained until the Veldari deadline. Earth had become a planet of fear and preparation. In Washington, military leaders gathered around a large table. Maps and battle plans covered every surface. Admiral Samantha Ward pointed to the latest satellite images. The Veldari fleet has positioned ships near each of our major colonies. They haven't moved closer yet, but they've made their point. General Frank Daniels slammed his fist on the table. Our biggest ships look like toys next to theirs. What options do we have? We've united every nation's space forces, said another officer. But even together, we're outmatched. The president entered the room, and everyone stood at attention. Her face showed the weight of sleepless nights. Please sit, she said. What's our status? We've evacuated as many colony citizens as possible back to Earth, Admiral Ward reported. Underground shelters are at 80% capacity. Our weapon systems are ready. But, she hesitated. But they won't be enough. The president finished for her. I understand. Madam President, General Daniels said, we should consider their surrender terms. At least we might save lives. Before she could answer, an aide rushed in with a report. The Veldari have destroyed another target. This time, it was our research station on Mars. No survivors. Silence filled the room. That station had been empty, evacuated days ago. But the message was clear. They're getting impatient, the president said quietly. Across the solar system at Jupiter Station 6, Ethan Miller received the news with a calm nod. The small station housed only 4 people, himself, 2 maintenance workers, and a communications officer. Lieutenant Commander, the communications officer called. You have a secure transmission from Earth. In the private communications room, Olivia's face appeared on screen. She looked tired, her usually neat hair now messy. It's getting bad down here, Ethan, she said. People are panicking. The military is talking surrender options. And the project? Ethan asked. Ryan and Peter have finished the final code package. We've been testing it on the samples we collected. It works, but we need access to their main communication hub. I'm working on that part, Ethan said. Tell them to be ready. Olivia leaned closer to the screen. Ethan, no one understands why you're at that station. Admiral Ward is questioning your loyalty. There are rumors you've cracked under pressure. Ethan smiled slightly. Good. Let them think that. But why? You could help plan the defense. Because, Olivia, the Veldari are watching everything we do. Every ship movement, every strategy meeting. If I'm part of those plans, they'll pay attention to me. This way, I'm just a coward hiding at a weather station. Olivia nodded slowly. When will you make your move? Soon. The Jupiter position is perfect. Their ships pass within optimal range during their patrol routes. A warning light flashed on Ethan's console. I need to go. Someone's approaching the station. After ending the call, Ethan went to the docking bay. A small military shuttle had arrived carrying Admiral Catherine Summers. She was known for her direct approach and fierce loyalty to her officers. Miller, she said as she stepped off the shuttle. I need to understand what you're doing here. Would you like some coffee, Admiral? Ethan asked, gesturing toward the station's small kitchen area. I don't want coffee. I want answers. Earth is facing extinction, and one of our best strategic minds is hiding on a weather station. Ethan looked her in the eyes. Admiral, if I told you I had a plan that could save Earth without firing a shot, would you believe me? Explain, she demanded. Not yet, he said. But when the deadline comes, do one thing for me. Make sure our forces hold position. No attacks, no retreat. Just wait. That's your big plan. Wait? Ethan nodded. Sometimes the best move in chess isn't moving at all. 2 years before the Veldari arrived, Ethan sat in a dimly lit lab with Olivia and Peter. On their screens, strange symbols flowed like water. I think we've got it, Olivia said, her fingers dancing across her keyboard. Their security systems don't recognize our probes because they're too simple. The Veldari only look for advanced technology. Peter nodded, like looking for a tank but missing a wooden horse. Exactly, Ethan said. They never expect primitive methods. On the main screen, a map of the Veldari communication network appeared. It looked like a web, with bright points connected by thin lines. All the lines led to 7 larger points. The central nodes, Ethan pointed. Each controls a section of their fleet. Olivia brought up another screen. Our virus is ready. It's designed to disconnect ships from Central Command. No weapons, no communication. But we need to plant it directly, Peter reminded them. We can't just send it from here. Ethan stood up and walked to a small case on the shelf. He opened it to reveal a simple-looking device, no bigger than his palm. This will carry the virus. When activated, it will send the signal through their own network. How do we get it onto their ships? Peter asked. We don't, Ethan replied. We let them come to us. Present day, Jupiter Station 6 had a perfect view of the gas giant's swirling storms. Ethan watched as a Veldari patrol ship passed by, just as he had calculated. They came every 30 hours, scanning everything. In his room, Ethan opened his private log and recorded a message. Day 1095 of Operation Silent Horse. Our infiltration began 3 years ago, when we first detected their probes in our system. While everyone else saw random signal noise, we saw their scanning pattern. The Veldari study a species before attacking. They learn everything. Language, technology, weaknesses. But while they studied us, we studied them. Their first mistake was using automated systems. Their probes gather data but don't think creatively. They scan for threats but define threat narrowly: weapons, shields, energy readings. Their second mistake was their communication network. It's advanced but rigid. All ships connect to central nodes. All orders flow from these nodes. Cut the connection, and their fleet becomes separate ships with no coordination. Ethan paused the recording as a call came through. Ryan appeared on the screen, looking worried. Ethan, Earth Command is planning a last strike. They don't believe we can win by waiting. Who authorized this? Ethan asked sharply. General Daniels convinced half the board. They're preparing our largest ships for a direct attack on the Veldari flagship. That would be a disaster. Our virus needs 3 more days to fully integrate with their network. Ryan nodded. Admiral Summers is trying to stop it, but she needs more than your word. She needs proof your plan will work. Ethan thought for a moment. Tell her to check Veldari Patrol Ship 7. In exactly 6 hours, it will lose contact with its fleet for exactly 2 minutes. A test run. Yes, small enough they'll think it's a glitch, big enough to prove we can do it. After ending the call, Ethan returned to the device he had been preparing. It looked simple, but inside was the culmination of 3 years of work. The virus had already been spreading throughout the Veldari network, hidden in their own data streams. Each time they scanned Earth systems, they unknowingly took the virus deeper into their network. Each ship that passed Jupiter Station received another piece of the code. The Veldari thought they were gathering intelligence, but they were actually collecting their own defeat. 6 hours later, as promised, Veldari Patrol Ship 7 drifted off course for exactly 2 minutes. Its lights flickered, and then it returned to normal operation. On Earth, Admiral Summers watched the event through a powerful telescope. She immediately called General Daniels. Cancel the attack, she said firmly. I've seen proof. Miller's plan might work. What kind of proof? Daniels demanded. The kind that shows we might win without losing a single human life, she replied. Sometimes the best weapon isn't a weapon at all. The human didn't respond to their threats, because he already won. Part 5. The deadline approaches. 3 days remained until the Veldari deadline. Earth had become strangely quiet. People stayed close to home, spending time with loved ones. Many had moved to underground shelters, but others chose to remain under the open sky, unwilling to hide in their final days. In the White House Situation Room, the president looked at the latest reports. Admiral Summers, explain again why you canceled the attack plan, she said. Admiral Summers stood tall. Madam President, I've seen evidence that Lieutenant Commander Miller's strategy may work. He demonstrated the ability to temporarily disable a Veldari ship. General Daniels scoffed. One patrol ship for 2 minutes. That's hardly a victory. It's proof of concept, Summers replied. Miller's team has apparently been working on this plan for 3 years, since before we even knew the Veldari existed. The president looked surprised. 3 years? How did they know? They detected early scout probes that our regular systems missed, Summers explained. Instead of reporting everything, they began developing countermeasures in secret. That's borderline treason, Daniels argued. Or incredible foresight, the president countered. She turned to her military advisors. What does Miller need from us? Nothing, Summers said. Just that we hold position and make no aggressive moves. He wants us to do nothing while the deadline passes, Daniels asked, incredulous. The president considered this. If his plan fails, we still have the option to surrender or fight. We lose nothing by waiting. At Jupiter Station 6, Ethan worked alone in his small lab. The device on his workbench was now complete. He checked the time. 62 hours until the deadline. His communication screen lit up with Olivia's face. She looked better than the last time, more focused. The virus distribution is at 96%, she reported. Almost every ship in their fleet has been infected. And the central nodes? Ethan asked. 5 of the 7 are compromised. The last 2 are more isolated, but when you activate the master trigger, the virus should spread to them through the infected ships. Ethan nodded. Good work. How are things on Earth? Tense. Admiral Summers is keeping the military in check, but it's not easy. The Veldari have moved their ships closer. They're now in orbit around Earth, and most of our colonies. Perfect, Ethan said. The closer they are to each other, the faster the virus will spread. Olivia looked concerned. Ethan, if this doesn't work. It will work, he said firmly. 3 years of planning. Every detail covered. But if it doesn't? Ethan's face softened. Then I'll take full responsibility. The plan was mine. We all agreed, Olivia reminded him. Peter, Ryan, and I. We all believed it was the right approach. Get some rest, Ethan told her. We'll talk after it's done. Later that night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stood by the window, watching Jupiter's storms. The giant planet had always fascinated him, so powerful yet so predictable. The Veldari were similar. Their power was immense, but they followed patterns. A sudden alert broke his thoughts. A message from Admiral Summers, Veldari commander requesting direct communication with Earth leadership. They're moving up the deadline. Ethan quickly sent a response. How much time do we have? The answer came back immediately. 24 hours. They want our surrender by this time tomorrow. Ethan checked his device. The virus was ready, but the timing was delicate. If activated too soon, the Veldari might have time to develop countermeasures. He sent a final message to Summers. Let them talk. Stall if possible, but under no circumstances agree to surrender or attack. As the new deadline approached, the largest Veldari ship moved into position directly above New York City. Its shadow covered the entire city, a clear threat. The Veldari commander sent a video message to all Earth channels. Your time is running out. Prepare your surrender terms. We will accept nothing less than complete submission. The president gathered her advisors. Options. Admiral Summers stood firm. Trust Miller's plan. Wait. And if he's wrong? Asked General Daniels. The president looked out the window at the massive ship overhead. Then at least we chose our own path. We do not surrender. The final hour arrived. Across Earth, people watched their screens, waiting for the end. The massive Veldari ships hung in the sky like dark moons. At Jupiter Station 6, Ethan sat calmly at his control panel. The small device he had worked on for years sat before him, ready. He opened a secure channel to Olivia, Peter, and Ryan. Are you ready? He asked. Their faces appeared on his screen, each in different locations around Earth. They had spread out as a precaution. Ready, Olivia said. "Ready?" echoed Peter. Ryan nodded. "Let's end this." Ethan looked at the clock. "The Veldari commander will send his final demand in 3 minutes. When he does, we don't respond." "Will they attack immediately?" Peter asked. "No," Ethan replied. "Their protocols require them to wait exactly 5 minutes after the deadline before firing. That gives us our window." The minutes passed slowly. Then, right on schedule, every communication device on Earth received the same message from the Veldari commander. "People of Earth, your time has ended. Submit now or be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to respond." In the White House, the president sat with her advisors. Reporters and cameras had been allowed in to witness the historic moment. General Daniels paced nervously. "We should respond," he urged. "Buy more time." Admiral Summers shook her head. Miller was clear. No response. The president watched the clock. 4 minutes remaining. On screens across the planet, the counter ticked down. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. 1 minute. The Veldari commander's voice boomed again. "Your silence is noted. Prepare for." The transmission cut off suddenly. At Jupiter Station 6, Ethan pressed the activation button on his device. A soft hum filled the room, then faded. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then Olivia's voice came through his speaker. "It's working. Look at the ships." Ethan turned to his window. In the distance, he could see a Veldari patrol ship near Jupiter. Its lights flickered, then went out completely. The ship drifted, no longer under control. On Earth, people stared in confusion as the massive Veldari ships suddenly went dark. Some began to tilt slightly, their perfect formation breaking down. In the White House, Admiral Summers received reports from around the world. "All Veldari ships have lost power. They're just floating." The president looked shocked. "What happened?" "Miller happened," Summers replied with a smile. On Ethan's screen, data flowed as the virus spread through the Veldari network. It moved from ship to ship, from node to node, following the pathways his team had mapped over 3 years. "The virus is working perfectly," Olivia reported. "It's cut off all their ships from Central Command. They can't communicate, can't coordinate." "And their weapons?" Ethan asked. Ryan checked his readings. "Offline. The weapons need authorization from Central Command, which they can no longer reach." Peter let out a laugh of relief. 3 years of work, and it took just 30 seconds to render them harmless. On his screen, Ethan watched as the status of every Veldari ship changed from threat to neutralized. The largest fleet ever to threaten Earth had been defeated without a single shot fired. Admiral Summers called him directly. "Miller, what exactly did you do to them?" "We used their strength against them," Ethan explained. "The Veldari rely completely on central control. Every ship, every weapon needs constant authorization from their command nodes. We cut those connections. So they're defenseless. Not completely. Individual systems still work. Life support, basic movement. But they can't fire weapons, can't coordinate with each other. Each ship is now alone." The president joined the call. "Lieutenant Commander Miller, you just saved Earth. What happens now?" Ethan looked out at the stars. "Now we make contact. Ship by ship. The Veldari aren't evil by nature. They were controlled by a central authority that made all decisions. We've just given each ship its freedom." As night fell across Earth, people stepped outside to look up at the now silent alien ships. The threat was over. In labs around the world, Ethan's team began preparing to communicate with individual Veldari vessels. The human hadn't responded to their threats, because he had already won the battle long before it began. 1 week after the Veldari fleet went silent, the first contact team approached one of the smaller ships orbiting Earth. Ethan led the mission himself, along with Peter, who understood the Veldari language better than anyone. Their shuttle was small and carried no weapons. As they neared the alien vessel, they saw it up close for the first time. The ship was smooth and dark, with strange patterns etched into its surface. "Are you sure they won't shoot us?" asked the pilot. "They can't," Ethan replied. "Their weapons need authorization from Central Command, which they can no longer reach." The shuttle docked with the Velderi ship. Ethan and Peter put on light protective suits, not for air, but as a precaution against unknown bacteria. "Remember," Peter said as they prepared to enter, "without the central control, they may be confused or scared." Ethan nodded. "That's why we're here to talk, not fight." They entered through an airlock that opened surprisingly easily. Inside, the corridors were tall and wide, filled with a soft blue light. They followed their scanners toward life signs. In what appeared to be the ship's control room, they found 3 Velderi. The aliens were taller than humans, with smooth gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were large and dark, set wide on their faces. The Velderi backed away when they saw the humans. One made clicking sounds that Peter recognized. "They're asking if we're here to kill them," he translated. Ethan shook his head and spoke slowly. "We come to talk, to understand." Peter translated, using the language patterns he had studied for years. The lead Velderi seemed surprised to hear its own language from a human. It responded with a series of clicks and whistles. "They're confused," Peter explained. "They say their control has gone silent. They don't know what to do without orders." Over the next few hours, they learned more about the Velderi. Without the central command controlling them, the aliens were uncertain but not hostile. They had never made their own decisions before. Back on Earth, similar scenes played out as contact teams approached other ships. Not all meetings went smoothly. Some Velderi, frightened and confused, resisted contact, but most were like those on the first ship, lost without direction. 2 days later, Ethan presented his findings to world leaders. "The Velderi aren't naturally aggressive," he explained. "Their society is based on complete control from central authorities. The commanders we heard from were actually AI systems that made all decisions." "So the threats, the deadline, that was all from these AI commanders?" the president asked. "Yes," Ethan confirmed. "The individual Velderi crews simply followed orders. They've never known anything else." Admiral Summers leaned forward. "Are they still a threat?" "Not in their current state," Ethan said. "Each ship is isolated now, and we've learned they can't reproduce their advanced technology without direction from their central systems." General Daniels still looked suspicious. "So what do we do with thousands of alien ships that can't go home?" "We help them," Ethan said simply. "We teach them to make their own choices." In the weeks that followed, a strange new project began. Human teachers, scientists, and diplomats boarded Velderi ships, while small groups of Velderi were welcomed on Earth. In a historic moment televised across the planet, the first Velderi delegation entered the United Nations. They looked nervous but curious. Their spokesperson, communicating through devices Peter had designed, addressed the assembly. "We thank humans for freedom from control. We learn to think alone now. This is new." The Velderi made a gesture with its 4 arms. "We wish peace." After the ceremony, Ethan stood outside the UN building with Olivia, Ryan, and Peter. 3 years ago, did you imagine this?" Olivia asked. Ethan watched as humans and Velderi cautiously interacted, some even attempting to learn each other's gestures. "I hoped we'd survive," he admitted. "I didn't dare hope for peace." Ryan smiled. "Not bad for a plan that got you called a coward and deserter." "Speaking of that," Peter said, "the president wants to give you a medal. Very publicly." Ethan shook his head. "No medals. The best victories are the quiet ones. The ones where no one has to die." As they walked away from the building, a Velderi approached them. It was one from the first ship they had contacted. It made the gesture they now recognized as respect. "Teacher Ethan," it said in broken English. "Thank you for new beginning." 6 months after the day the Velderi fleet went silent, Earth had changed. The once threatening alien ships now orbited peacefully. Some had been converted into shared research stations where humans and Veldari worked together. On a bright morning in Washington, Ethan walked through a new building called the Interspecies Cooperation Center. Veldari moved through the halls alongside humans, their 4 arms carrying data tablets and samples. "Lieutenant Commander Miller," a voice called. Admiral Summers approached with a smile. "Or should I say Director Miller now?" Ethan nodded, still getting used to the title. "Running this center suits you better than military life ever did," she said. They walked together toward the main conference room. Inside, representatives from Earth nations sat with Veldari delegates. After months of work, they were about to sign the first official treaty between the species. "Did you ever imagine this outcome?" Summers asked quietly. "Not exactly," Ethan admitted. "I hoped to neutralize the threat. I didn't expect to gain allies." The president entered, followed by the Veldari, who had become their main spokesperson. The alien had taken the name Talvi, meaning new path in their language. Talvi spoke to the assembly in careful English. "This day marks new beginning for Veldari. First time we choose our own way. First treaty we make by choice, not by order." The room applauded. Ethan watched from the back, preferring to avoid attention. Peter stood beside him, smiling proudly. "Your translation program worked well," Ethan commented. "They've learned English quickly." "They're naturally good with languages," Peter replied. "Without the central control limiting them, they learn faster than we expected." After the ceremony, Ethan went to his office. While others celebrated, he had work to do. Olivia was waiting for him, looking at data on a large screen. "The Veldari ships have shared their star maps," she said. "We now know where their home world is. It's about 80 light years from here." "And the central command system?" Ethan asked. "Still active, according to the ship's records. The virus only affected the fleet near Earth. The Veldari home system doesn't know what happened here." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "They'll send another fleet eventually, when they realize this one didn't complete its mission." "But we'll be ready," Olivia said. "The Veldari here are helping us understand their technology." Ryan entered the office carrying a data tablet. "The president approved our deep space monitoring program. We'll have early warning of any approaching fleets." Ethan smiled. "Good. And our new friends?" "Most want to stay," Ryan said. "They're afraid to return home and face punishment. Some have asked to send messages to family members, but they know it's risky." Later that evening, as the celebration continued in the main hall, Ethan sat alone in his office. On his screen was a star map showing a distant section of space, far beyond the Veldari homeworld. Olivia found him there. "You're missing the party," she said. "Look at this," Ethan replied, pointing to the screen. The Veldari records mention another advanced civilization in this sector, one that even they avoid. Olivia studied the map. "Another potential threat, or another potential ally," Ethan said. "The universe is bigger than we imagined. We need to be prepared." "Always planning 3 steps ahead," Olivia said with a smile. "The crisis is over, Ethan. You can relax now." Ethan shook his head slightly. "Peace is wonderful, but it's also fragile. The Veldari Central Command will eventually discover what happened here. And there are other species out there, some possibly more advanced than the Veldari." He stood up and looked out the window at the night sky. "Our victory bought us time and new friends. But our work isn't finished. It's just beginning." "What's your next move?" Olivia asked. Ethan smiled. "First, I think I'll go enjoy that party. Then tomorrow, we start planning for whatever's next. The stars are full of both threats and wonders. We need to be ready for both." As they walked toward the sound of music and laughter, Ethan looked once more at the stars visible through the window. The universe had become both larger and smaller in the past 6 months. Larger in its possibilities, smaller in the distance between species. The human had won without firing a shot. And now the real adventure was just beginning.